Everyone, this is Chuck Smith. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Peace Park Conservancy. And today I'm super excited because we have a bonus episode in our ongoing digital series on the Peace Park Interpretive Plan. And I'm super excited that the guest for this episode is Kim McKnight from the Austin Parks and Recreation Department. Kim, I know how fabulous you are, but for people who might not know you, can you tell us a little bit about your role at the Parks and Recreation Department?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. Delighted to participate and getting the word out about Peace Park and the Interpretive Plan and all the great work that we're working with the Peace Park Conservancy on. My role at PARD is the manager of our Historic Preservation and Heritage Tourism Program. I am a planner by profession and also have the pleasure of working really closely with the Peace Park Conservancy on the Peace Park Master Plan, which was adopted by Council in 2014. So my role with Peace Park and the Peace Park Conservancy goes back quite a few years.
As a partner, the Conservancy and PARD in this process, can you share a little bit about your perspective in terms of the process specific to Peace Park and perhaps the process in general for other interpretive planning projects?
Certainly. The Peace Park Conservancy was a really terrific partner in early on understanding how important it was for us to have an overall plan for the park. And they agreed to fundraise, and ultimately we worked in a collaborative sense to develop a master plan for Peace Park that was developed by WRT, which was a firm based out of Philadelphia with offices in San Francisco. So this master plan was the first time that the community as a whole really took a look at Peace Park and tried to understand what the challenges were, what the opportunities were, and how we could start to really think about the park as more than just a little green belt adjacent to a neighborhood. Peace Park is a district park. It's the oldest park in our city outside of our downtown squares and is really there to serve a broad and inclusive group of people ranging from students at UT to the downtown visitors and tourists that are coming to Austin. Certainly the neighborhoods that are in close proximity, but we think of it really as a district park that should have broad appeal. So that master plan process was the first time that we'd had that opportunity to really look at this park and figure out what was needed to make it accessible. And a lot of it were physical improvements, things like trail improvements and signage and wayfinding, but a lot of it had to do with really how we frame the park and make it a more inclusive and welcoming place, how we translate some of the really important natural and geologic and ecological features of the park and make those accessible to children and to people. So the interpretive plan followed the master plan and really provides some very concrete strategies to take our planning to the next level.
You touched on it, but I guess what do you think the important things are in terms of how an interpretive plan can connect the community, or what is the value that an interpretive plan brings to a park?
Well, in many ways, we think of interpretive planning as kind of a second phase, but I would argue that more and more I'd love to see interpretive planning come on the front end of our park master plans as really setting the stage for how we think about a park. It is the opportunity to understand what stories we are trying to tell and how those stories can be translated through different mediums. And so whether we're wanting to convey information about the natural world, whether we want to convey information about the history of a place, we can do that through physical improvements. We can do that through wayfinding and signage. We can also do that through programming. So I think that the interpretive plan can come anytime and at any point. I think it's especially valuable early on as we're improving a park so that we can make sure that our physical improvements really are logical and sequential and are an outcome of this idea of how can we make people have an experience in this park? What do we want them to emotionally kind of come away with? What sort of history of the park do we want them to understand?
Which aspects about the Peace Park Interpretive Plan are you most excited about?
Well, an interpretive plan, and the one for this park in particular, I think takes advantage of a lot of really important storylines that exist. Through the interpretive planning process and through the community engagement that took place, we identified opportunities to better convey some information about the natural world. So there's just incredible natural history, ecological history, native plants, fossil field limestone, different kind of wondrous aspects of the land and the topography and the plants that we can better convey. So one of the things that I think that this interpretive plan provides is a framework for how the Peace Park Conservancy works to confront some of the really difficult racial history and racial injustice that is represented in Peace Park. Few people in our community may be aware that the Peace family, Governor Elijah Peace, were enslavers of people. That's a story that's important. It's something that I think needs to be confronted as a part of the park's history. At the same time, there are some incredible connections that I think we can make with the proximity of Clarksville, which is one of the oldest freedom colonies in our country. Freedom colonies being land that was settled by emancipated, formerly enslaved persons. In the case of Clarksville, many of whom had worked in the area. Wheatville is also in close proximity to Peace Park, as well as numerous other settlements up and down Shoal Creek. So the opportunity is immense. I do think this is a great starting point. I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, and I think the plan provides a terrific framework so that we can start that exploration with our community.
To extend that, don't you see or believe that ongoing continued community engagement is going to be a necessary component to the execution of this plan?
Absolutely. And again, I see the plan as a starting point. I don't see it as a finishing. The plan itself, I think, states that it's a 5-year plan, which I think is a good amount of time for the Peace Park Conservancy and PARD to work together to understand our different opportunities and roles and responsibilities as far as implementing programming, wayfinding, signage. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, for the Peace Park Conservancy to continue some of the great outreach work that you all have done. I was encouraged by your participation, for example, in the MLK parade and other ways of kind of going to people in the community as opposed to always expecting people to come to you. And I think the Peace Park Conservancy has been doing a great job of trying to get out into the community, make some connections, and do what they can to really personally welcome people into the park.
Is there anything about either the process that has happened so far or in terms of the potential execution that you think is novel or new with regard to interpretive planning in Austin?
I would say that the Parks and Recreation Department and with our partners is really dipping our toe into, I think, new ways of doing things. I think it's not enough to just put history on a sign and expect that that is enough for people, that they're going to get what they need to hear. I think programming plays a big role. I think ongoing conversations, community engagement, making connections and collaborations with new partners. One of the things I was encouraged by and very excited with was the engagement with Stephanie Lang and the Center for Community Engagement at University of Texas. This is a connection I think is long overdue given UT's proximity to Peace Park. Stephanie does some terrific work within our community, and I think her work with MuseWorks was really great for this plan. She was able to help us engage in really substantive ways with our community and has really played, in my mind, a central role in the success of this plan.
Well, Kim, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our digital series on the Peace Park Interpretive Plan, and know that the Conservancy continues to look forward to our continued relationship and the execution of this plan and working with you and PARD. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.